Hello everyone, welcome to the Aussie Game Podcast for another week where we talk all things Australian football. Joined as always by Mopper. How are you today, my friend?
Yeah, good, and welcome everyone. Action-packed news. We've got fans, contracts, transfers, friendlies. It's all happening. I love it. Football is alive and well. What about yourself, Chief? How are you coping today?
Yeah, very good, mate. Had a busy weekend. Actually happened to bump into a few of our listeners. So again, we appreciate everyone's support, those that are listening. I've actually got a few questions that we'll answer towards the end of the podcast, a bit of feedback that's come in. So yeah, again, appreciate everyone's support. It's something that we're loving doing.
Yeah, keep pumping those questions through. The more the merrier. Yeah, we'd love talking about what you want to hear about. So pass them on as for our chats, and we'll break it down, give it as much time as we can.
Absolutely, mate. Well said. So I'm just going to start with a quick fact check because we were talking about the Australia versus Canada first international game for Canada last week, and we're discussing where the game was played, and we're thinking it was the Sydney Cricket Ground or Sydney Football Stadium. But as it turned out, when we did a bit of research during the week, it was the Brisbane Cricket Ground, which is obviously known as the Gabba in more modern terms. So they're not playing like 6 games in that series. I think they played 5. And the series was drawn, and they weren't happy with that result, so they went and played a 6th game. So yeah, a few fun facts that were interesting to look up during the week. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that one up from last week. But we're going to start this week's episode with some local focus, because during the week it was reported that Sydney FC are potentially going to have to be playing away from Allianz Stadium to start the A-League season. So I'll just read some of the quotes to start out with, and I'd love to get your feedback, Mopper, as well. So this was reported by Vince Rigari in the Sydney Morning Herald on Monday on the week just gone. So Sydney FC are set to seek millions of dollars in compensation from Venues New South Wales to account for the findings of an impending review into Allianz Stadium's faltering drainage system, which the A-League club fears could block them from playing games at their home ground until 2026. The review, due to be completed in the coming weeks, is expected to recommend the $828 million stadium, which only opened in September 2022, be shut down for at least 6 weeks for remediation work required to address the ongoing issues with the playing surface to be carried out. Now, Mopper, this is a stadium that's completed less than 3 years ago, and already there's issues. And Sydney FC is obviously one of the biggest tenants, has obviously shared with the Roosters, the Waratahs, and other events, concerts, etc. But what a disruption this is for Sydney FC to be beginning their season like this.
Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing when we seen the scenes of last year when the Roosters were almost flooded due to a small bit of rain that ended up exposing these weaknesses in the stadium.
Even more recently, mate, look at the Women's State of Origin. There was sure it was plenty of rain, but like big pools of water on the field. It's just not good enough.
Not for key events. We see what new stadiums can offer now and how they're built, and we just obviously didn't have that foresight back then, and clearly didn't envisage how we can actually build a stadium around multiple purposes, which we're very passionate about. I guess from a fan's point of view, first, before I touch on my point, I'm just going to look at the Sydney FC 2024-2025 season. So their total crowd number was 198,664, which gave an average of 15,282 per game. So that's the impact from the people's point of view. If you look at when this happened, when the stadium was built, when they had to go to Cogra and Leichhardt, they did get around $5 million in compensation. So it was about $350,000 per match that he actually got compensated for. So whether that's going to be similar numbers, that was a few years ago. So maybe it's going to be even more. I guess my frustration with that one, Sydney FC were founded in 2004, so they've been around for 21 years. And when you don't own something and you're leasing and you're at their mercy sometimes, I get they've got a contract to play, but like 21 years in, and aren't we looking for our own infrastructure? Like, I know that's a long-term vision, but there's so many sites around Sydney that are available to develop, and we've already seen some great infrastructure around the camps and bases around of football and sporting complexes. Why isn't Sydney FC looking, if we need to be compensated 350,000 per match, over the 21 years that they've been alive, what are we doing to show some foresight? So Sydney FC have to look at our own responsibility as well, because if you're going to continue to lease and pay that amount of money, then geez, I beg to question and put that out there. Like, I know it's big picture stuff, but I tell you what, if you're supporting a football club and you don't own it and you're co-sharing and you're paying leases and you're paying all that money, then I think they need to have a look at what they want to do long term. They're not going to be, short term enterprise. So I'll put it back to them as well, not just blaming the poor drainage. So I think it goes both ways. And obviously, you're right. The fans are the biggest losers because they're going to have to look for other venues, and they're the ones that are going to be impacted more than anybody. So those 15,500 fans that we says on average probably are going to be impacted too, because you're not going to probably get that average in other stadiums. So it's a lose-lose, I think, even if they do get compensation.
But they've gone through it, haven't they? The fact that, as you mentioned, when the stadium was being built, they were playing these games at Leichhardt, at Cogra. Yeah, that's already a disruption to their fan base. And I think as a club, they were starting to build on that. They didn't have the best season, the season just gone. The season before that, they made the semi-finals. So they were kind of building, they were starting to get that fan base back. And then just to have this another disruption to their campaign. I think you're right in the sense of it would be great for them to have their own facilities. It's not common, is it? Not just our code, but generally, it's not common for clubs to have their own facility. So yeah, like it's just not ideal, is it? Like just to start the season and they'll be looking to build. They've got a lot as a club to try and improve on from the season just gone. Their men's and their women's team did not perform up to the standard that they would expect, and to have this come through as a start of their season is just not ideal for them. They might be compensated financially, but that kind of reputational damage and putting the fans' noses out of joint a bit for the disruption is hard to put into financial terms.
Yeah, it's just disappointing on a whole, really. Like I said, lose-lose situation, and there's no end in sight to it too. They're, like you said, they're at the mercy, and they're going to suffer the consequences. It's just embarrassing, and it's unfortunate. Sydney FC are probably the unfortunate ones in this, aren't they? Because like we said, everyone's been impacted now, and that's unfortunate when you like lease or rent a property, you don't own it. As I said, there's the interruption, and it's just a shame that the long-term goal can't be looked at, for further down the track. If we've got a 15,000 average stadium that we could purpose-built, but anyway, that's just again a pipe dream for Australian football. Suffering fans, just showing my passion there. I'm sorry, but it's just one frustration after another. Yeah.
No, it's a financial gap though, isn't it? Like what we're talking about with those bigger clubs. And we've looked at some of the more modern stadiums like Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or the new stadium for Real Madrid as well, and what the facilities are like, and it would have cost the New South Wales government more to invest in it. But again, it's like the longer term vision of it. Like what is, if we want to have these concerts on there, to have these retractable pitches come in and out, and then you've got basically a sporting surface, and then you've got a concert surface, and things aren't restricted as much as they are. But again, look, it all comes down to money, and even for, as you said, for Sydney FC, like if they did have a smaller stadium, say it's a 20,000 stadium, and they play that for the majority of their games, but the big derbies, then they move to Allianz. Potentially, that would be an option, but look, this is where we're at for the moment. It's disappointing for Sydney FC and their fans, and hopefully, once they do this work, they can fix the problem for good, and we're not having these issues going forward.
Yeah, it's 828 million.
Yeah,
There's no other ways to put it around 2022 stadium. It's a shame, and disappointing that everyone gets impacted again. But anyway, I've had my rant, and I'm sorry about my emotional outpour, but I'm just trying to find a better way for football going forward.
No need to apologise, mate. We're all kind of rowing in the same direction, wanting to the best for the game. So, just as part of the article by Vince Rigari as well, it said the A League players rated Allianz. Well, last season the A League players rated Allianz Stadium as the second worst surface in the competition, behind only Suncorp Stadium, which has had its own issues with the playing surface. So that was through regular polling conducted by the Players Union, the Professional Footballers Australia. So not really surprising that we're coming up with these issues. They're obviously Sydney FC are due to play Wrexham on Tuesday night as well. So hopefully the surface holds up for that event. So in some better news for Sydney FC, it's interesting. Matthias McAllister, the son of Dylan McAllister, signed his first professional contract for 3 years after being at Sydney FC's academy since the age of 12. He's now 18. So a positive news story for Sydney FC in the middle of all that disruption with the stadium. So to have one of their academy products, and always fantastic to see these former Australian players and A-League players, the next generation coming through and following in their footsteps.
I seen the list the other day. Actually, we might put it on next week's podcast how many actual sons and families actually play. So we might touch base on that one next week.
Yeah, we're going to touch on mentioned a bit later on as well. So yeah, it's awesome to see that next gen. As you said, the A-League for 21 years next season. But yeah, there's been some of that next gen coming through with that generational gap. So probably wanted to touch on Melbourne City. So mainly because of some of their transfer activity and their contract extensions. So Liam Botic was the latest one to join Melbourne City. So he's come from Celtic on a 3-year deal at 20 years of age. I straight away thought potentially if Kai Truan's on his way out the door, maybe Bonatig will come in as a replacement for Kai Truan, which is possible. Kai Truan caught up to the Socceroos squad recently, so I'm sure he's on plenty of people's radars. So, but Liam Bonatig, highly rated young defender, he'll be one of the ones in line to go to the under-28 World Cup. Sorry, I should say, later this year. So again, another one coming back at a good time. Hopefully, getting some game time in preparation for that World Cup later in the year.
Yeah, let's have a little deep dive and see where he's been and what he's been. Liam's obviously an Australian under-21 20 international whose older brother Alex plays A-League football for the Wanderers, is where Liam actually first started in the Wanderers Academy and in the second team. They're both Edmund Royce boys, both from Shellharbour. And if we break down Liam's journey, so he had 9 games for the Wanderers second team, which plays obviously in the State League, before getting an offer to Celtic, where he's been playing in the Celtic B team. So he's had 19 appearances for the Celtic B team in Scotland. In addition to that, they were in the UEFA Under-19s, where he played 5 games. So overall, he did play 33 games in that couple of seasons. He has been capped for the under-20s. He's had 5 internationals. He wasn't in the squad for the under-20s successful Asia Cup, but he did play in the qualification round where he played 3 games. So I think he's looking to come back and obviously get some game time. And obviously he'll be up against his brother who plays for Western Sydney in Alex. So a little bit of brotherly rivalry. They were played together, and now they've obviously Liam went to Celtic, but now back with City. We'll have a nice little brotherly rivalry there for the Shellharbour boys, and well done to Wollongong for producing great talents from the area. So big shout out there for the youth development, and an exciting signing for Melbourne City. Obviously a young backline and one for the future. And hopefully he can get some starts because, like you said, the Under-20 World Cup's coming up later in the year. And there's going to be plenty of opportunity, I think, in Melbourne City to get a start. So I think that's the probably key reasons why he's probably come back, to get the start in senior football.
I think from Melbourne City's point of view as well, 3-year deal, if he does come back, prove himself, he might only be there for a year, and then they're selling him. So hopefully they'll be able to
I like it.
Um,
It's about time we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, it's
yeah,
getting out of these 1 year deals and 2 year deals. So 3 years, very smart move by Melbourne City. They're making some very smart investments.
yeah, and I'm going to touch on this now because obviously Bonatti coming in, and then they're out. Steven Ugarkovic, he's probably well. Look, let's go through them. So Steven Ugarkovic, Harry Politides, Callum Talbot, Arian Soleimani, James Jego, Marco Tilio. So of that group who they've lost or been willing to let go, Ugarkovic and Tilio are the starters. The rest of them, Jego probably would have been if he was fit, but he wasn't. But the rest of them kind of fringe players or get the odd start. So they're not losing too much in just a bit of depth. But I think with the youngsters that came in during the season, they showed enough to show that they're ready to come in as required. But then where they've been doing their best work, I think, is their extensions. So their keeper Patrick Beach extended this week on a 2-year deal. Harry Shillington has extended. Max Caputo, Samuel Suprayan, not in the young Australian category, but he has also extended, and Alessandro Lapani. So yeah, all extension work. So they've obviously identified the ones that they're really happy with in the squad, and they've just decided to keep them and extend their deals. And then obviously Andrew Naboot coming back, he missed a great portion of last season, and it's like he's going to be a fresh new player coming in. So the defending A-League champions only seem like they're building and getting stronger at this stage.
Yeah, it's important to note too that the men's and women's team of City are both in the AFC Champions League for next season. So obviously they'll get plenty of football and plenty of good time there, which is the most exciting part.
Even though it is the longest off season ever, there is still plenty going on at those clubs and all the other clubs as well. So we'll keep you up to date throughout the off season. Obviously, the Australia Cup recommences in a couple of weeks' time with the A-League clubs introduced at that stage. So yeah, looking forward to those games as well. So we're going to go to some on-field action now. Martin Boyles scored again for Hibs. They had a 3-2 friendly win over RWSN. So he's absolutely scoring for fun these days for Hibs. So good to see him in some goal scoring form. And obviously, we've mentioned over the past few weeks a few of our young Australian talents going overseas, and now they're starting to get their debuts and get some game time for their respective clubs. So Casey Boss, he plays first game for Mainz. It was a 4-0 win over Bayern Alzenau, who play in the fourth tier of German football. He played the second half. There's a YouTube clip going around that I was fortunate enough to be able to watch the other day. So I got to see a bit of Casey Boss play. So he got forward a lot, which is kind of typical of his game. He was solid in defence. He took the corners from the opposite side, so in swinging with his left foot, he inverted a fair bit, had a few shots, but couldn't score. So he looked obviously he's playing a fourth-tier German team, and he's going to come up against much better opponents in the Bundesliga. But he certainly looked comfortable within that Mainz team. So that was very encouraging to see for Casey Boss.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. We talked about him early on and how exciting it is and how well he'll go for Maine. So great to see he's getting some game time just to impress and try to press his selection for the season that's forthcoming.
Yeah, definitely. A few more that we saw over the past couple of days. So Daniel Arzani got 30 minutes for Ferencváros in a 1-0 friendly win. So good to see him get that time. Marco Tilio played 45 minutes and got an assist for Celtic in their 3-2 friendly loss. So his future's a bit up in the air. I know he definitely wants to prove himself at Celtic, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of assurances that Celtic are going to keep him, and whether that's another loan deal or a permanent move away. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Tilio. QPR had a 6-0 loss to Castellon. Daniel Benny and Jalen Pearman played the first half, and Keely Adamson played the second half. So again, these friendlies are such a good opportunity for these young players to just get in, get comfortable with the club, and get some game time because obviously once we get into the season, their game time might be limited, but it's a good opportunity. You never know what the coach might see in them to break through. Noah Botic was another one. So he scored twice in Austria Wien's big 6-0 friendly win over Parndorf. So again, they've got Conference League qualifier on the 25th of July. So what's that? Less than 2 weeks away now. So he'll definitely want to be able to get comfortable within that club, and what a great sight to see him hit the ground running with a couple of goals in that win.
It's a great story, and like you said, big games to come up. So hopefully they can get through in Europe, because if they can obviously get Europe, Austria Wien, it'll just open up more opportunities for him. So fantastic start, and we wish him all the best for that one.
Definitely, mate. A couple more to rattle through. So Ashley Maynard Brewer, who's 26, he played 60 minutes in Charlton's 3-2 friendly win over Dartford. From what I could tell, looking at Charlton's squad, he's probably the third choice keeper there at Charlton. So they're up into the championship now. So I think if he is to stay at Charlton, his game time is going to be really limited. So I think for Maynard Brewer, it's time to either get a loan if Charlton sees as a long term prospect, or get a permanent move away, just so he's getting some game time. He only played last year when Will Mannion got injured, and then they've brought in another keeper now. He'll probably start in front of Mannion. So yeah, Maynard Brewer dropping down the pecking order at Charlton. Ryan Teague, he started for KV Mechelen in their 5-2 friendly win against the Go Ahead Eagles. So good to see him getting stuck in with his new club. For Hearts, Cam Devlin played 77 minutes. He was replaced by fellow Australian Callum Nieuwenhof in Hearts' 4-1 win over Dunfermline Athletic. And Patrick Yazbek's Nashville, who were going really well in the MLS Eastern Conference, they lost 2-1. Some bloke called Lionel Messi scored both goals for Inter Miami. Never heard of him, but sounds like he's a decent prospect.
Mate, what in Yazbek cut him across, eh? Sure, many people tried in the past. Oh, Yazbek, they were going so well, Nashville, but they're still right in the hunt, aren't they? In second spot, they're still in second spot, yeah.
I think they might be third or fourth now, but they're only
Pretty
like 3 or
tight.
4 points off the top. It's tight,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, still a fair few games to go.
yeah. It's good to see some of the boys, like you said, touched on getting game time, and hopefully that they'll just continue to try to build their prospects. It's really a defining year for probably most people if they think they want to be in Socceroos calculation to really impress. Otherwise, like you said, with Ashley Maynard Brewer, who's had played 19 games in League One last year, maybe, and has been loaned out several times. It's maybe time to find something more stable.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, even the Hearts boys, like Cam Devlin had a few. I think his was concussion related, if memory serves. Apologies if that's incorrect, but great to see him back on the pitch. And Callum Nieuwenhof, I think he came back from an ACL, long time out for Nieuwenhof. So amazing to see those boys playing for Hearts, getting some game time. So I'm sure Hearts will have some prospects of doing really well in the Scottish Premiership this season. So yeah, all the best to those boys.
Yeah, definitely. It's still got a few weeks before the big ones kick off, so the more game time they can get, the better.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. All right, mate, we're gonna do something a bit different now. We're gonna introduce a game that's hopefully is a bit of fun for our listeners. So it's going to be called Chiefs Challenge. Are you up for Chiefs Challenge, mate?
Oh, me. I'm up for it, mate. Fire away. What do we got?
All right, so I'm going to read out a couple of clues, and this week's a player, but it could be game or it could be a coach. I'm going to mix up a bit, keep everyone on their toes. So,
Male or female?
well, you'll have to listen to the clues and see if you can work it out,
Righto.
mate.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to have a crack at it, hit us up on our socials. Search the Aussie Game. You should be able to find us. And yeah, if you think you might know it, have a guess, and we'll release the answer on next week's podcast. So here we go, mate. Born in Orange in 1988, played 24 times for the Socceroos.
Ooh,
Was
male.
part of the 2015 Asian Cup winning squad. He played for 3 different A-League clubs, one of them in 2 different stints, and he won the Greek Super Cup, and he's a Johnny Warren medalist.
Okay. I think I might have a clue, but we'll leave it for
Oh,
viewers and reveal next week, yeah?
ooh, okay,
Okay.
all right. I'll get you to write that one down so that I can check your work. But yeah, if you think you might know that one, yeah, hit us up on the socials. Have a crack at it. But yeah, we'll be doing Chiefs Challenge each week, and to see how much knowledge our listeners have about our Australian players and Australian games, etc. So yeah, Chiefs Challenge. Keep an eye out for it on the socials, and we'll reveal the answer next week.
All right, more transfer news, Chief. What do you got for us?
All right. So Dean Bazanis has moved to Brisbane Roar. So Matt Acton was released from Brisbane Roar. Macklin Freak was the number one keeper there for the majority of the season last season for Brisbane. So not sure what Michael Valkanis, the new Brisbane coach, is thinking, but obviously Bazanis comes with a whole heap of experience from his time playing over in England. So yeah, probably some healthy competition for Macklin Freak and a good dose of experience to add to that Brisbane squad.
And Fran Karajic's moved to Hajduk split as well from in Europe. So that's he's a Socceroo, so he'll be looking for some game time there.
Yeah, he was getting some good time at MK Lokomotiva last season, but Split's obviously one of the bigger clubs in Croatia. So Anthony Kalic there, another Australian, is already on the books there, so he'll be linking up with him. But again, he'll be looking to push his case for that right back spot in the Socceroos squad. So yeah, all the best to Karacic. Hopefully, he gets some game time.
Yeah, definitely. Is Hajduk split in Europe? Well, that's the question. They must be, surely. Are they? Are you aware of?
I don't know if they are. They were winning the league for quite a considerable amount last season, but they fell away towards the end. So that might have ruined their chances. But maybe we can look that one up on the run and bring that to you guys as we go this evening. So
Yep.
there were a couple of extensions in the A-League men's comp as well. So Logan Rogerson extended for 2 seasons with Auckland. So that was a good extension for Auckland to keep that solidity after they had such an amazing season just gone. And William Freeney extended with Perth for 2 years as well. So yeah, good to see a few of those locals, the younger players at Perth getting locked down, and David Zrilic, after a pretty underwhelming first season at Perth, will be certainly looking to improve their on-field performance, and they have picked up some good signings so far. I think Caltech's going to be a good one for them. So yeah, they'll certainly be looking to improve what they did last season.
And what about the rumours, Chief? What's going around the table?
Well, Antonio Arena, who we actually spoke about a couple of weeks ago, so he's the 16-year-old who's eligible for Italy and Australia. So he's been in the news a bit this week because he's been valued 2 million euros by Pescara, his current club, and he's linked to multiple clubs in Europe, and the front runner is AS Roma. So we don't really know where Antonio Arena's allegiances are going to lie, whether they will be with Australia or with Italy, but certainly a hot prospect if a club like Roma is looking to fork out some significant money to secure his services. So really good for him to be able to do that, and hopefully he chooses the right club and has a promising future.
And country.
Yeah.
So
Oh, look, it
shout out to Endeavour too, who produced the young man himself, and he was born in Sydney, so surely he's Australian, Chief. What do you reckon?
oh, look,
It's
I think
Socceroo
that's
for sure.
as I've said before, it must be so tough for these kids that have, the dual nationalities, and I'm sure they got pressure from different sides of the family. So, yes, of course, we hope he's a future Socceroo, but yeah, he's got to go where he feels most comfortable. So let's see what happens.
Is he been capped in the Italy in the juniors? I think he has, hasn't he?
I think he got called up for the under 17s Italy squad. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that one.
yeah, for sure. Let's move on to the Matildas. They played their final game against Panama. They were down 1-0, then up 2-1, and then Panama drew level at 2-2, and then the Matildas ended up winning 3-2 in the end. So 2 goals from Michelle Heyman and then a winner to Charlie Grant. So Michelle Heyman's first one was a tap in, but then after she missed that sitter that we should normally bury in that first game against Panama, I'm sure that was a relief for her to get that one across the line. But the second goal was absolute quality. That header from about the penalty spot, the generated the power. The placement was beautiful as well. So, yeah, well done to Michelle Heyman. And then, yeah, obviously, as I mentioned, Charlie Grant popping up late for the winner. Only her second goal for the Matildas. So she was absolutely thrilled to get that one.
Yeah, it was good for the girls. Well done. It was a real challenge with the camp, and to come away with the win will only boost their confidence. And congratulations to on Werner Heatley, who obviously successfully made a transfer to AS Roma until signed up till 2028. Roma finished third last year in the Serie A for women, and they're in the Women's Champions League, which is great. So not only is she competing at the top level in Serie A football for the women, also in Champions League, which will be great experience for the 24-year-old. She showed some great signs and have been part of that Matildas camp that we've had out here and playing in national football, where she's just grown, and I think will play a vital role as we look to either partner up at the centre back or push her into the six, which has been tried in these last few games. If we go a little bit deeper, let's have a look and break down the Matildas, who have just completed a succession of 8 matches. They've been playing since April, May, June, and July against 4 nations. So we've seen them up against Asian opposition with South Korea. We've seen South American element come out in Argentina. Most of these players were the top first starting 11 mixed in with that second tier 11 that Joe looked at. And then once the succession plan come out with Joe, the Matildas that are in that first 11, we give breaks and time off to, which was obviously after a long season, gave Joe the opportunity to bring in some youngsters and some A-League and some players on the cusp, and he extended the squad to 32 to allow, I believe, young Matildas and the under-23 some more opportunities in a camp, while the elder stakes women were given some lengthy time off, which was well-deserved. And obviously those last 4 games were against Slovenia, the European nation, and then we went North American with Panama. So what I like about this great window that we had, we really utilised it well. We've not only played against 4 different nations in the world, we exposed not only our top tier players, we've got some youngsters in there, we've got a mix of the A-League, we've really exposed and used the full length of our squad. We probably won't see this much now as we move into obviously the Asia Cup next year. But a shout out to what's on next for the Matildas under 23s. Well, they'll go to the Asian Masig Serenity Cup, which is in Vietnam. That starts in August 6th to 19th, and that'll be the under 23s. The coach, Joe Pilates, is the one that's doing. He's the Matildas assistant coach. He'll be leading that team. And obviously, Joe will have a strong eye over there. And then the young Matildas under 20 start their Asian Cup qualification. Kazakhstan commencing August 6. So very busy for those girls in the under 20s and 23s. And we've seen some snippets of them in those camps that we've just, and obviously the games against those 4 nations that we said. So what's up next for the Matildas? We move closer to the Asia Cup draw. This will be held at Sydney Town Hall on the 29th of July. We've already got 11 teams qualified for the 12-team tournament in March held in Australia. And for the final group wrapping up next week. So that's underway at the moment. So obviously the pots and seeds are all getting ready for that draw. If you look at the last group, we've got Bhutan, Iran, Jordan, Singapore, Lebanon, all fighting out for that last group, that one little spot. And obviously the pots and seeds, which is the most important one for the Matildas, which will get drawn at Town Hall, with the 12-team tournament waiting for that last spot so we can get that draw underway. So some exciting times there for the Matildas, and no doubt for the fans. I know tickets for the football family are on sale from July 18th, so that's next Friday. So for all those football fans out there, make sure you jump on that. And I'll just give you a quick update on the draw. Pot 1 is Australia, Japan, North Korea. Pot 2 is going to be China, South Korea, Vietnam. Pot 3, Philippines, Chinese Taipei, and Uzbekistan. Pot 4, India and Bangladesh with the remaining spot. settled next week. So what's going on in women's football? And once again, I'd like to shout out for Fiona Heatley, who I think will be a very mainstay Matilda. And I think she's made the great move over there. I think that'll give her loads of experience. And I like the club selection and I like the league that she's playing in. Defensive, Italian, I like it. I think she's gone to the right one. It'll suit her development. And that's why I reckon the Italian Football League over there will suit her the best. All
Yeah,
right.
the Roma's in the Champions League qualification, so I think they need to get through maybe one game before they're officially qualified for the Champions League. So, but yeah, they would definitely be hoping to make it through to that stage. So it'd be exciting to see Heatley playing at that level for sure. So just on Heatley, and you did touch about her playing at centre back. We did have a question during the week about the best centre back pairing that we saw through Joe Montemiro's games against Slovenia and Panama. So do you have any thoughts? We saw a few different combinations as we went through those games. Did you like any particular combinations that that Joe showed us?
Yeah, look, my belief and personal belief, I don't think will change. I think Hunt and Kennedy will be starting in the Asia Cup. I think they're the number ones that command that. I think Rona Heatley, and I'm so glad they tried her out in the six because I think again we talked about Cooney Cross just giving her a little bit more space in that 6 to 8 role or that double pivot that Joe sometimes plays. I think with Rona Heatley there, she's a ball playing defender. And I think that ball playing, we've seen Kennedy pop into that six role. They can obviously, change it up a bit if needed. I definitely would love to see Ryan Hitley try to nail down that six because I do want to see Cooney Cross get further forward or be the double pivot and support, but be able to be released. And I think Ryan Heatley will be the one that sits. And I really hope that she nails down that spot because I think it's probably one of the only spots that I see that's open in the Matilda side. And I think Rona Heatley at that age, going to Roma as well, hopefully we'll get some good game time and prove her worth in there. I really liked seeing Rona in there, the only thing I didn't see was Heatley in there with Cooney Cross. So maybe, that's something coming going forward. That's what I'd like to see anyway, because I definitely want Cooney Cross further up the pitch.
Yeah, I probably didn't see anything in those games that made me think that centre back pairing will be disrupted too much. I'll put one to you. I wonder if you could play a Kennedy and a Steph Catley in that centre back pairing and then play potentially a Jamila Rankin on the left, only because Catley has that ball playing ability. She does play centre back for Arsenal as well. And just given Joe wants to be able to have ball players in there, it would take away from what Steph provides down the left wing. But what do you think about that?
I'm pretty sure Tom did that against Argentina, put Catley in there on that left inside centre back. So it's definitely an option. I, I just I I know it's in March, the Asia Cup, but I don't know if we've got enough time to experiment that enough. That's why I think we'll be going to the original. But you're 100% right in his thinking. And I guess if you look at some of the games in our Asia Cup against the probably top 4 and 3, we probably will have the opportunity to play that. And no doubt he'll probably do that in the friendlies. So it's definitely an option. I just think when you come up against the high nations, I think we'll go back to what we've known and what's stable at the moment.
Yep. No, that's fair enough. And look, I think having that solid back four, I think Micah and Mackenzie Arnold probably flip of a coin, depends on what style of keeper you want in the sticks. But that back four of Carpenter, Kennedy, Hunt, and Catley, pretty solid. So yeah, you'd want to have something significantly disrupt that to be able to change, as you said, in the short amount of time that he has to prepare for the Asian Cup.
I do think it's Claire Hunt's challenge, though. I know how astute of a defender she is, but I do, looking at the friendlies, I did think that Claire Hunt went with the ball at the feet, did get exposed a little bit, but is that who's in front of her and who's on the right and who's on the left? We were experimenting a lot. I think it's Claire's Hunt's now job to go away and really work on that because Joe will demand that. And I think that's probably a good thing for her development. So probably the out-and-out defender probably now needs to add to her passing game. And I think maybe she's never been asked or tested to play at that level playing out. But I think that would be a great learning curve. She's such a young, good central defender. I think one for the 10-year future. She's going to be there for a long time. So if Jo can add that to her game and give her the confidence to do that, I think that'll only benefit us and benefit Claire more.
Yeah, exciting times for the Matildas and in the women's games. Plenty of good headaches for Joe Montemurro to work out as he starts to build towards that Asian Cup. So let's just move on now to the Emerging Socceroos Championships, which were concluded earlier in the week. So congratulations to the under-15 winners, Victoria Blue, and the under-16 winners, the New South Wales team, Sky Blue. So New South Wales Sky, I should say. The players of the tournament, potentially ones to look out for in the future. So for the under-15s, it was Joseph Sakura, who played for New South Wales Sky, and under-16s was Aston Reed. So any guesses who's the father of Aston Reed?
Go for it, Chief.
Paul Reed. So obviously, yeah, synonymous with the NSL and the A-League. Fantastic player in his day. I remember getting along to plenty of Wollongong Wolves games and watching him play live. He was such a busy and dynamic midfielder. So as we were talking about before with the next generation coming through with Matthias McAllister, yeah, good to see Aston Reed, son of Paul Reed, coming through those ranks as well. And Carl Viet was in attendance for the championships, as well as Tony Popovich and Hayden Fox. I think they were only there for maybe the last day or last couple of days, but what an opportunity for these young players to be playing in front of some of that caliber of coaching, and obviously the Socceroos coach as well. So, well, I thought it was an amazing coverage during the week. Football Australia put heaps of content out on social media, just watching some of the goals, some of the skills that were on display, some of the emotion from the players as they were going through. It was just really cool to see. And yeah, hopefully we're starting to unearth more and more of these players that are going to go on. And obviously Carl Viet's got a close eye on them to start to build his under-17 squad. But hopefully these players continue to flourish and to push through.
Yeah, look, one thing on Aston Reed, he already has represented Australian under-16 football too, Chief, with the Joeys there. They went to a tournament early on in the year. So obviously, he's getting a lot of exposure. I do want to mention too, one of the football, coming out of Football Australia, saying that the cost of these youth teams has been quite expensive, but this is the future, and we need to invest more because it'd be great to get the best of these boys over playing European teams at this age, because I reckon they'll fast track their development even faster.
Yeah, agree with that. And it is a cost, but it's hopefully going to pay off. And we talked about earlier in the pod about the long-term vision, and hopefully Football Australia see that long-term vision and they're willing to invest, because it's been a really great tournament. And as I said, that one concluded on the 11th of July, and then starting this week, incoming is the Emerging Matildas Championship. So good to see the girls get their time in the spotlight, and looking forward to seeing plenty of content from the 15th to the 20th of July and seeing those Emerging Matildas show what they've got as well.
Yeah, and congratulations on the concept. The concept from Football Australia is an absolute vital cog in the wheel, and to put this on, to be able to see the best of the best that we've got in Australia that we've identified at this age, it just gives massive benefit to the under-16s, under-17s and under-20s going forward. So well done for the coverage as well. You don't often see these young players until they go through the system. So well done for obviously the coverage on that one. It's a massive bonus to give us that exposure, and the young players, giving them the opportunity to play. So it's massive, and hopefully we see more of this and the girls next week. So unreal. So well done. And yeah, I just keep pushing that push out there that it'd be great to see the best of these 15s and 16s play in Asia or Europe. Hint, hint. To Football Australia, to get some clubs out there from European standards, so we can really test the best of the best. That would fast track the development of these kids. So again, just a wish, but you invest more, you will get your return, I guarantee you. And well done to all the kids and the young boys that were out there having a crack. It's great to see that they get that opportunity.
Yeah, it really was amazing. Let's got a couple more things to get through. So during the week, the latest FIFA World Rankings came out, and the Socceroos have moved up 2 spots to 24th in the rankings. So we've spoken about this before about the potential of getting into pot two in that World Cup draw and moving up a couple of places certainly helps our case in that. And look, it just shows what a great job Popovic did in that qualifying because didn't drop a game, didn't lose a game, sorry, in that run of games. So yeah, that's obviously always going to help in terms of us moving up the rankings. And then with these other games, as we mentioned previously against New Zealand and the one that's been announced for Canada, hopefully we can continue that streak and continue potentially moving up a few more spots and trying to secure that pot two for the World Cup.
Yeah, definitely. Look at our Asian counterparts. We'll just have a deep dive as we're looking into pot two and where our competitors are in our confederation. So obviously we've got South Korea at 23, just one spot ahead of us. Iran's at 20. And Japan obviously leading the way in number 17. So obviously, if you have a look at some of the nations that are around us, so Ecuador's just below us, Ukraine, Turkey, Canada, who went up. We said last week we reported they were at 30. They've gone up a couple of spots too at 28. So, and then Sweden 29, Panama 30. So some interesting ones there. And obviously Austria, Denmark 22, 21. So very interesting where we sit on the current rankings. As you said, it's all important because pot two in the World Cup qualifying draw. So
Yeah, couldn't agree more, mate. And yeah, if we can sneak into that pot two, no games are going to be easier at the World Cup, but it'll certainly give us a better opportunity to get out of that group stage and then keep progressing through the new 48 team tournament. A couple of other bits of news. So Ernie Merrick was announced as leaving Football Australia. He was in the role of Chief Football Officer. So was it a very interesting article that you shared with me during the week about some of the changes happening at Football Australia? Again, this was one that was through ESPN, through Joey Lynch, and yeah, just to look at what's happening with Football Australia, with obviously James Johnson leaving as CEO, and some of the fallout from that, and just what's going to happen with Football Australia going forward. So yeah, interesting times because as we said, there's a bit of a hole in terms of the investment they've put into the youth program, but hopefully that's not a deterrent to keep investing in that program.
yeah, we're seeing some departures from Football Australia. And it's all closed doors, bit of hush hush, a bit of concern about the financial result as well. Bit of to and fro as you'd expect from Australian football. With some of the reports though, how factual they are, obviously that's a big statement. Losing Merrick is, that's 2 spots now open. We've got an interim CEO of Australian football, but there's some big decisions to be made. There's a lot to work out. They've got some challenges coming up in this space, and I probably don't have enough time to talk about it tonight. And whether who's going to step in and try to break down those layers is probably the biggest challenge in Australian football at our domestic competition. Geez, I wish someone would come in and break all that down and try to take this league to another level. But anyway, that's another podcast for another day.
Yeah, look, there's certainly plenty happening, and in terms of the positive stuff, we do have an Asian Cup hosting coming up, and that's going to double as the World Cup qualifier for the women's, and obviously with the men's, as we've spoken about previously, reaching that World Cup qualification with a year to spare. So they're the positive things happening in the game, and we just hope that there's some positive decisions and the best decisions for football in Australia happening within Football Australia going forward.
Yes, absolutely. And also, Chief, don't forget, we've heard some news flashes from Serie A AC Milan. There's Como earmarked for Perth, waiting for the final green light. This move has come with a clash due to the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics being in Milan at the San Siro. So look out for those news flashes. We're just waiting for the green light to see if Perth fans can get some Serie A downtown in Perth. So that'd be pretty exciting for the fans down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the statement read that the Federal Council of the FIGC have responded positively to the Italian League's request for the AC Milan Como match to take place in Perth. Now there needs to be a formal green light from the Australian Association, UEFA, the Asian Football Confederation, and FIFA. So a few hoops to jump through before it actually happens. But I believe that'd be the first match played for competition points in a European competition played outside of the country. So pretty cool little landmark thing for Perth. And yeah, hopefully if it does come about that it's fruitful. And I think it just kind of lends to our ability to host events. And this is obviously a one-off, but if we can show that we host events and we host tournaments well, hopefully the going forward, the right people see that, and that it puts us in a positive position to host some bigger tournaments going forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It opens up. We've seen a few clubs experiment from a friendly point of view and a World Club Challenge point of view. So yeah, maybe that's something we can look at down the future.
Now we're running pretty long tonight, but we're going to throw in a couple of quick questions that we've received. So one was in regards to Joe Gauchi's future at Aston Villa. So interesting times there. And the question was related to if Emi Martinez is to be moved on in this transfer window, does that then move Joe Gauchi up to that number one spot? So what are your thoughts?
Look, Aston Villa, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. They've been linked heavily with some keepers in France. I don't think Joe will get their number one spot. I think he'll get some time in the friendly games leading up to it. They are in Europe, so maybe that's an opportunity. I believe in looking at the World Cup year, I would not be taking any risks. Even though the opportunity could be very high risk or reward, I would go out on loan. There's no guarantee that they don't sign one or two keepers. There's plenty of time left in the window, but I think pre-season he'll definitely get a lot of games. He will probably, show his talent and hopefully impress in them. But I think Villa will push heavily, and what I can see in the transfer market are clearly looking at a couple of world-class keepers that will probably take that number one spot. I think Martinez is definitely gone. If Sino Nana from Man U is out for 12 months, I think Man U will act very quickly on this. And Martinez already stated that he's very keen for a move. So I think you'll see this eventuate over the next couple of weeks. So for the Joe Gauchi fans, I'm a huge fan that where he is a great spot, but I really think he needs 12 months to 2 years of football if he wants to crack it in the Prem. And you've seen that with goalkeepers from Australia with Schwartz and all that's come through the ranks. They started elsewhere and built up for that. So go get some game time. He will get, he could pick Belgium or, I know I'm just speaking out of text, but like there's some leagues there where he'd start. So go get some game time and then come back. But the challenge is there is risk and reward there if he does stay because they are in Europe and they will be playing a hell of a lot of games. But they went. What was that old keeper they went for last year? Number 2. They played him in there, like some of the
Robin Olsen.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like that's the risk, yeah. Because like I wouldn't think he's of any great standard, but
he's not there anymore. I don't think. I think he's been let go. But I
that
think
just shows the mentality, of the club.
Yeah.
That's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about how useless he was. I'm more concerned about the mentality of their decision making.
Yeah, and I think like whether it is Martinez staying or whether he is replaced with another top class keeper, I still think Joe Gauchi ends up being the number 2 keeper there. And normally clubs won't loan out their number 2; they'll loan out their number 3 keeper.
Yeah.
So he might be a bit stuck in that way. He might just be consistently on the bench, so kind of not getting game time at Villa, not getting a loan away.
We did go to Barnsley last year, yeah. Briefly.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But
that
was only
as I said, I think that's when he was the number 3, and they were willing to let him go. But if they see him as the number 2 and see him as the one to step up for their number 1 keeper, if something is to happen, I think he might end up still being at Villa. But I think going back to the question, I don't think that if Martinez is sold, that they're going to trust Gauchi to be their number 1.
No.
I just think he's too inexperienced at the moment, unfortunately. And as you said, he just needs more game time under his belt until they're going to be able to trust him for that position.
It's a shame they don't trust him because we've seen him at international level, but we've seen how ruthless the Premier League is. So, you'd hate for him to make one mistake. It'll get publicised everywhere and you'll never hear the end of it.
Yeah.
And
Our other question, and this is what we'll finish up on tonight, was just more information about us and who we are. So I think we could probably take that in lots of different directions, but I think maybe we, just for today's episode, we touch on the reason for us looking to start this podcast and what we're probably trying to do with it. So I'll have a go at that first. I think probably for us, we're looking at the landscape of the way that Australian football is reported on in the media, and we don't get the coverage that we think we probably deserve. So I think having a platform out there where we can bring news to people and they're not having to troll through 1,000 different websites to find information. We'll do that for you, and we'll bring you it in a kind of bite-sized chunk each week. And I must say that there are some other great outlets out there that are doing some amazing work as well. It probably wasn't the case a couple of years ago, but there's certainly plenty of people trying to push some we really appreciate, like the community of other podcasts and other networks that are doing that as well. So I think that's amazing. But I think probably for us, what we're trying to achieve is to bring up the profile of some of the younger players that aren't getting the recognition, and then also kind of once players go overseas, they can get kind of lost in terms of how they're reporting on and how they're going, and it's only when they get called up for a Socceroos camp or a Matildas camp that we start to kind of look at them again. So I think that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to lift the profile of our young players and just bring more exposure to the Australian game.
yeah, I think shout out, like you said, on my behalf as well, to the football family who report on football and give us some awesome information already shared across the network. And as I said, we're just trying to expose and unearth the youth that and some of the stories that you might not even hear about that wouldn't be at that top upper echelon, and try to follow the junior Matildas and junior Roos all the way through, and get them some exposure as well out there, and get some people understanding who's playing football, and probably tackle some matters as well that we're passionate about, because we want to see Australian football succeed on all levels. We may have some insight and we may have our own opinion, but it's only for the better of the game. And we really want to see all the football community succeed and grow and become a really strong football nation. And we're very passionate about that. And once you hear our story, and we can share that with many football followers, you'll see the passion within, because obviously we want to tackle a couple of main concepts that are probably on people's minds as well, about the challenges that we're faced now. Not just Football Australia, but the whole communities from down to the bottom grassroots to all the way through. Because it's not always about just who's succeeding at the top. It's right down to the pyramid that we like to call it, that we'd like to see Australian football follow. So yeah, so we want as many interactions and questions and that as well, and we'll debate them, and obviously want to hear what's on your mind around football as well, because obviously if we can break down some questions and that's on your mind, it's only going to broaden the program, and I think it'll be right up there with some of the key points that is happening in football today. As it's an ever evolving football network, isn't it? So yeah, we're excited to bring this podcast and get it out there to everybody, as share the same passions as we do.
Yeah, just we obviously had Simon Hill leave the Australian football community to move back to England. So these kind of voices for the game and advocates for the game in the media are kind of fewer and far between. So I even saw him commenting on something in the Australian game the other day on social media. So he's certainly still intrinsically linked to the game, even if he's geographically not close to it anymore. So as much as we can speak about the game and bring issues to people's attention, or as you said, lift the profiles of these young players and give them a platform, because there are some great stories out there that just don't get told. So hopefully we can do a bit of that.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks, Chief. Thanks for a great show, and yeah, keep pumping through those questions. We talked about a lot of topics again tonight, and it's just football is endless, isn't it? That's why there's so much to talk about.
Appreciate everyone's support. Thanks for everyone for listening. And we're available now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're trying to kind of branch out bit by bit each week and extend the platform out. We put a bit of content on socials during the week, so give us a follow if you can. Thanks for listening to the Aussie Game podcast. We look forward to your company next week. But in the meantime, enjoy your football.